All right, I'm here with Harper Goshin, current rower for Wisconsin University. Thank you, Harper, for coming on here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. I guess my first question I'm gonna fire at you is what is, something that you did as a maybe a young kid or growing up that kind of developed the person you are today, whether it was any other sports you played outside of, I don't know if you rowed as a kid or are there other sports that you played, extracurriculars, academics, not what did you do, but any other things that you did to help build the person you are today.
Yeah, so growing up, I played soccer and basketball. I feel like that was my identity for a long time. And going into college, I didn't have that anymore because obviously graduating high school, a lot of people kind of end their sports careers there. So that's when I found the rowing team here at University of Wisconsin, and I am a walk-on here. I'm currently in my second year, so I'm really loving it here. But I think other things that I've done, just having being on sports teams in general, and just being a part of something like that, whether that's with your friends, your family, your coaches, anyone like that in the sports community, I think it's just such a great way to learn from people, and such an important group and community of sports, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. So being a part of like a group, whether
Yeah,
it's sports or
100%.
that's a big part of your life, that support.
Yeah, I think being a lot of my identity throughout elementary, middle, and high school was being an athlete. And I was a little scared going to college losing that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm so glad I was able to find um, rowing here and be able to kind of be a part of a team again, have a schedule, have certain times for practice, for lifts, for video, anything like that. I
Absolutely.
think it's really important for like my identity as a person.
For sure. And a lot of people, I feel like when they go to college, do find that, especially if they're not playing a sport, that
Yeah,
they lose that part of them if they're an athlete in
yeah,
high school.
for
So
sure.
I'm wondering when you went to college, or even maybe you've gotten injured in the past, is there ever a time outside of when you went to college that you felt like you lost that? And if not, when you did go to college initially, what were those thoughts? Did you immediately like, let me just try rowing on, or like rowing, or uh, did you cope in any way? And like, what did you do? And did you do anything that helped that was successful before you decided to walk on?
Yeah, so initially I was thinking maybe I'll join the club soccer team or intramurals or basketball, anything like that. I think another great way for to have sort of a community is also through clubs, organizations, anything like that. But I definitely wanted a way to get me moving physically and like into something I love, which is being a part of a team. So I met the coach, our coach Vicky Opitz, at our kind of freshman orientation thing in the summer. I talked to her for a bit, went through a month or two of tryouts, I believe. There were like 250 girls who tried out, about 40 who made it, and now this year there's only 4 or 5 of us left. So if that shows you the difficulty of the sport, then there it is. But I think that itself also shows how close we are as a team because we've all been through it and we all understand the difficulty, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, all of it. We can all be together as a team and really bond with each other and almost like a family, honestly.
Absolutely. And that's really inspiring. It's really amazing. And you mentioned, there's like a 1 to 2 month process for being a walk on. I mean, that's intensive. What was there motivation or is it just like
Yeah.
your self-discipline? Is that something, that persistency that you kept on, for a sport that you didn't really have much experience
Yeah.
with? What was kind of that motivating factor? What was kind of your recipe for success, I guess?
Yeah. So not only the idea of being a part of a team, but I think proving to myself that I could do something. Um, Obviously, I'd never rowed in my life before, but rowing is a sport where you can learn it super fast. Doesn't mean you're necessarily good super fast, but the training, it will come. So I think proving to myself, honestly, that I could do something as difficult as walking onto a Big Ten Division One women's sports team. And I think I've proven that to myself and I continue to do that every day, which makes me very proud of myself. And yeah, just getting better every day.
Awesome. And is there any things outside of athletics that, I mean, you said every day you like to, do something for yourself or prove to yourself you can do something. Is there any small things that help you do that throughout the day that aren't athletically
Yeah.
related?
Yeah. So I definitely think taking a step back from sports while while playing at such a high level is important because as much as it feels like your whole life, it's hard to sometimes separate that. I think it's important to separate that sometimes. Otherwise, you're going to get caught up and lost in it all. Um,
Absolutely.
Something I do like to do, honestly, I think it's funny, but taking naps, like taking 30, 40 minutes, even 20 minutes in a day where you can take a little nap or I need to do this more, but I think meditating is also great. I think it can really calm you. And even if it's like, oh, how is that really going to help? I swear, 5 minutes, take 5 minutes. And even reading aside from school, which I know can be super hard to find time for. I'm just finding time recently because I'm not the biggest reader, but I think doing things for pleasure, whether that's doing a puzzle, like drawing, literally anything that's not relative to your sport, I think is super important to for your mind to like get
Yeah.
into your
Yeah,
head. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. That's very well said, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I feel like a lot of athletes, especially at a high Division 1 level, especially don't care to balance stuff like that, and it's really
Yeah,
important to
for
keep
sure.
it in your mind. And I'm wondering, going off of that, is it ever hard to balance it sometimes?
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
find time to do it, and if so, is there something you can alter, or maybe is there a way you can organize yourself to plan things during the day and give yourself that time to do things outside of rowing?
Yeah, so at least for us, our practice schedule, we practice 6 times a week, 2 times a day. So obviously I believe it's like 20 hours a week, which is a lot of your week, and putting that on top of school. And I'm also in a sorority here and some clubs. So that all together, a lot of people ask me, how do you do the clubs, the sorority, and rowing? I'm like, I don't know, but I make it work. I think once again, trying not to let yourself get super overwhelmed, which is much easier said than done. But being disciplined, having a schedule, I like to write down my little to-do list every day on like either my phone or like a little notepad. Cross things off when I'm done. And just I think especially for rowing, we have practice super early. Like I wake up at 5 a.m. every day for practice. I think getting your workout done in the morning is super beneficial, not only for your physical health, but for your mental health. And then we'll have another practice later in the day. But I just think being able to keep on top of the schedule is super important. But once again, when you fall out of that schedule, not to be too hard on yourself because we're human and we mess up sometimes.
Absolutely. Awesome. That was also very well said. And
Yeah,
I think you touched upon a lot of great points. And I'm sure this is all, stuff that you developed through your time as you matured. And I'm
for
sure a
sure.
lot of
Yeah.
it has come recently. So I guess the last question I'm going to ask you
Yeah.
is, when you were younger or growing up, is there something you wish you could tell yourself that maybe would
Oh,
have you
yeah.
carry confidence a little quicker, or
Mhm.
develop this kind of mindset you have now a little easier?
Yeah, that's a good one. I feel like I always see people asking other people that. I'm like, oh, I wonder what I would say. I think I would want to say, don't be so hard on yourself, which I feel like is kind of a basic answer, but I feel like it's important. Um, everything works out. It's gonna be okay. I remember going through the process of like picking college, and I was so nervous over, oh, I didn't get in here, here, whatever. And I look at me now, I'm like, why was I so worried? It all worked out. So I think understanding that and not being so hard on yourself and understanding everyone's a human and we make mistakes, like I said earlier, and just do your best as you can, whether that may look different from someone else's, not comparing yourself, just taking it easy while also trying to be disciplined. But I think everyone take a step back for a second and like kind of look at the bigger picture and don't get so hard on yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, all that was really well said, and I really appreciate you coming on here, being open, being a little vulnerable, telling me about what helps you during your school and academic and athletic life. So,
Yeah. Thank you
Harper,
so much.
yeah, I hope you have a good one.
Thank you.